Rolled Out is a new indie marble roller that is dropping in early access on March 23rd, which is approximately tomorrow from when this video is set to be released. Though it's in early access, Rolled Out already has the mechanical depth and variety of mechanics that longtime fans of Super Monkey Ball may be familiar with, as well as a host of new obstacles and features that you will encounter and learn to master. This video will serve as an all-around guide on every type of level Rolled Out has to offer, how to navigate all the old and new marble mechanics, and how to master your control over the ball in order to die less, move faster, and get world records. Keep in mind that this game is still in constant development, so specific levels and obstacles may be tweaked and added or removed over time. Stay tuned for more videos on the game that will cover these future updates. First things first, let's make sure you're ready to play Rolled Out to the best of your ability. Your control scheme and settings are an important part of reaching your potential. What controller you use specifically is mostly preference, as bindings and joysticks can be calibrated in the settings. I personally prefer to use a GameCube controller on my PC set up with a Mayflash adapter, but that comes from my experience with playing Super Monkey Ball on the GameCube. Really, any controller that you like that has a joystick and can be set up to your PC is a good pick. You can even play on keyboard if you don't have access to any controllers, but delicate micro adjustments which come naturally on controller will have to be substituted with quick taps on your keyboard. While there aren't technically any limitations to digital inputs, you'll find balancing on thin rails will take some more time to get used to on keyboard. Now, on to the settings. The first page you'll be greeted with will be the game tab, which consists entirely of camera settings currently, which are actually extremely important. To start off, the camera turn multiplier alters how quickly the camera snaps to match your movement inputs. This right here actually is the most important one for going fast. We're actually going to want to turn this setting all the way down to the lowest possible value. You'll find out later why this works, but basically this will allow you to accelerate faster. Camera pitch offset modifies the pitch of the camera, deciding whether you want to look at your character straight on or from above. For cases where you'll need to see below you while falling through the sky, you want to make sure that the camera pitch is high up enough to see below you somewhat. The default setting works here, but you can modify this as you please. Camera height offset controls the height in which the camera is above the ball. The default setting works great here, any changes here would mostly be preference. Camera distance offset controls how far away the camera is from the ball horizontally. Further settings allow you to see more of the stage at the expense of seeing less of the ball. The default setting again works great here, I haven't messed around with this one too much. Field of view is a better setting for seeing more of the stage, in my opinion. Field of view, which is kind of like camera distance offset, allows you to see more of the stage around you. When combined properly with lower camera distances though, you can see the ball at the same time, which is a little bit of a best of the both worlds kind of situation. Make sure when you set the field of view to high settings that you also raise the panini projection, because that fixes the distortion that is caused by the FOV setting being a little bit too high. Once you hop into a level, you'll probably notice a few familiar and unfamiliar UI elements all over the screen. At the top left, you have the score, which increases as you collect coins and beat levels. At the top, you have the timer, which slowly ticks down. If it runs out, you have to restart the level, and lose a life if you're playing arcade mode. At the top right, you have your coin counter, which goes up as you collect coins of various values. The bottom left is the name of the stage you're currently playing, and the bottom right is a device that actually contains multiple useful pieces of information. It has the minimap, which you can zoom in and out with the minimap button. I personally like to keep the map zoomed in all the way since I can see the ball relative to the stage. Above that you have the speedometer, which displays your speed in a mysteriously unnamed unit. And you have the focus bar, which displays how much focus juice you have left. This goes down when you use focus mode, which I'll explain more in the next section. It also goes up as you collect coins and complete stages. The first basic movement mechanic is accelerating. You accelerate in any direction while holding a directional input. For example, if you hold forward, the ball starts to move in that direction until you let go of said input. Any other direction besides forward, though, will not only move the ball but also adjust your camera. After you hold upright, for example, you will move upright and the camera will now reset your upwards position to that direction you just held. This works with all inputs besides the up input. You can turn faster with left and right, and even faster with the down inputs. Fun fact, you do not actually control the ball in Rolled Out, nor do you control the stage. Whenever you hold an input in this game, you're actually changing the force of gravity. While normally it rests pointing straight downwards, whenever you hold an input, it points downwards and pointing in whatever given direction you input. This is why you're able to control the ball while you're in the air. This also means that whenever you're not holding no input, you actually fall slightly slower. So keep that in mind whenever you're crossing large gaps. Due to friction, your speed on the ground when accelerating will eventually cap out at around the 50 mark. As you can see, once I reach the 50 zone, no matter how far I travel, I never really go that much faster. There are ways to get to this max ground speed quicker, and also ways to exceed it, which I'll explain further in the rest of this video. This leads us into the topic of boosting, also known as frame boosting, which is a trick that you use pretty much everywhere once you know it. To put it simply, you can summarize your inputs as the 4 cardinal directions: up, left, right, and down, and the 4 diagonal directions: up left, up right, down left, and down right. These diagonal directions actually output more force than cardinals, so you accelerate faster when holding a diagonal input. Speedrunners use this trick by alternating quickly between up left and up right when accelerating. The less time you spend holding up when accelerating, the faster you'll go. By doing this, you can get up to the maximum speed much, much faster, saving time everywhere. As you can see, if I just hold up, I'll reach the max speed around this diamond part here. But with boosting, I'll reach that max speed significantly earlier. You can even combine this boosting trick with walls to go even faster. Wall boosting combines the high acceleration of boosting with the airborne power of using walls as ramps. Thanks to friction, which I touched upon earlier, we learned that when you're on the ground, you go slower. So if we boost and use the wall to get catapulted into the air slightly, we reach the max speed almost instantly. You'll notice before I even leave the starting platform, I'm already in the 50s. Keep this airborne mentality in mind as you learn more about how to move in rolled out. Now, let's talk about focus mode, a new, never-before-seen feature in animal and ball technology. When you press the focus button, both the ball and every aspect of the stage except for the timer slows down. This allows you to make more precise jumps easier, balance on rails more effectively, and makes you better at avoiding deadly obstacles. Be warned though, once your focus bar at the bottom right runs out, you cannot focus any longer, until you collect more coins or complete stages to boost it back up. Reminder that focus mode does not slow down the timer along with the stage and the ball. So if you want to get really fast times on individual levels and in arcade mode, save the focus mode for very precise jumps that you're not sure you can make in real time. It's time to talk about falling. Usually, falling means death, but one must fall in order to reach lower parts of the level sometimes. While this may seem more like an inevitability than a technique, you can learn to control the fall. First things first, don't panic. If your goal is to head downwards, then you want to input nothing. Whenever your joystick is in the neutral position, the camera points further downwards so you can see what's below you. Then, only when you can see what's below you should you start adjusting to land safely. Remember, if you need any additional reference for where you're falling, don't forget to use the minimap. The minimap moves around a lot less frantically than the main camera, so it's a good way to check where you're going to fall before you fall, or during the fall. Also, focus mode gives you more time to react to what's below you. So if you're uncomfortable with a fall, don't forget to use that as well. With enough practice with falling, you'll eventually be able to fall directly into goals that are below you, since that is the quickest way to solve your problem of what happens after you land. Another form of air control movement is known as air boosting. Air boosting, just like regular boosting, is done by flicking between up left, up right, and even down left and down right sometimes. Unlike ground boosting, air boosting is not for building speed, but rather, it's for staying in the air longer. For example, if I were to build some speed, and try to clip across these ramps in order to get across this gap, you'll see that I don't quite have what it takes to get across. But if we combine that same speed, and rapidly flick between up left and up right whenever we're airborne, we have plenty of potential distance to be made, which lets us get all the way to the end of the stage. Basically, whenever you need to cross a large gap, you always want to be rapidly adjusting between up, left, and up, right. Whenever you're using a diagonal in the air, you just stay in the air longer, which increases your chance of survival. On the other hand, if you know that you have enough height to get across a gap, you do want to just hold straight forward, because air boosting is slightly slower than just flying through the air, straight on. This technique right here you'll start using everywhere whenever you need to make sure that you get across a gap. It's a good consistency trick and is used to make some skips that otherwise would not be possible. Now, it's time for some advanced techniques. By now you should know how to accelerate efficiently, use the focus mode, and fall safely. But, to go even faster and to beat stages even more decisively, you will want to keep watching. The first advanced technique is clipping. Clipping is just a fancy word speedrunners use to describe any time where the ball collides with the edge of an object and gets sent into the air, like so. You can clip off of little ridges, bumps, ramps, or even the edges of platforms. There are two major benefits to clipping on purpose. The first major reason to clip is to gain speed. If you'll remember, your max speed is around 50 when you're on the ground, due to friction slowing you down. But if you're airborne, you can exceed that max speed. Using little bumps and ridges in the ground can help us achieve that max speed more often than not. For example, on this stage, if we stay on the ground, we'll go very slow, but if we manage to keep clipping all the way, watch the speedometer, we can reach speeds well beyond 50 and 60. I think the speedometer hit somewhere around 90 at some point during that level. Warning: when clipping, do not try to clip off of very tall objects. Tall objects will send you straight up and will not give you speed. Whenever you clip off of an edge, make sure you find the shallowest portion of it. Right here, I can clip to gain speed, but if I go too deep, I just get sent straight up with very, very little speed. So you want to make sure that whenever you have the choice, you take the shallowest edge, so you can carry that momentum through the stage. The other major reason to clip while speedrunning is to gain height. While it doesn't give you much speed, if you take speed into a clip that hits you high into the air, you might be able to skip up and over large parts of levels. For example, this conveyor belt stage is very simple. All you have to do is walk across the conveyors and get to the goal. You can do this relatively quickly, but the stage can be played much faster if you use the ridges at the edges of the conveyor belts to skip all the way to the end. Like so. A 7-second stage is reduced to a stage that can be beaten in less than 4 seconds. The more speed you gain before going into each clip, the faster you can finish too. Finally, while not a speedrun exclusive bit of tech, learning how to balance on thin rails is a very important skill to being able to complete more difficult rolled out levels. The very bottom edge of the ball is technically very thin, so the ball can feasibly balance on rails of any level of thickness, if you have the skill. But rails, as they get thinner, end up tilting, moving, can become very difficult tasks for casuals to deal with. The best piece of advice I can offer to anyone who's trying to get better at balancing on rails is to stay calm, use delicate adjustments, and keep your eye on the bottom of the ball. The bottom edge of the ball is where the ball's center of gravity is, so as long as it's aligned with the middle of whatever rail you're balancing on, the ball will not slide off. Once you're aligned with a straight rail like this, you can even just hold up, and the stage will solve itself. Keep in mind, if you're using a digital controller like a keyboard, instead of using very delicate joystick movements, you'll have to rapidly tap your keyboard to make these delicate adjustments. Still possible, but a little bit harder. Finally, to end this video off, let's go over all of the unique stage objects that are enrolled out so far. Each one slightly alters how you'll move through the stage, so get ready for some rules on movement to change. Coins. 1, 5, and 10 coins can be found scattered throughout stages. Coins can increase your score, with blue coins increasing it by 100, green 500, and red 1000. Coins also increase your focus meter, with the higher value coins increasing it by more. Finally, in arcade mode, if you collect 50 coins, you get an extra life. All in all, collecting coins throughout your casual playthroughs will increase your chances of survival. Try to go out of your way to grab them whenever you can. Goals. Goals are the primary objective. When you enter a goal, you'll gain score based on your time, focus juice, and progression to the next level. Secret or more difficult warp goals of various colors will let you skip over stages in arcade mode, so you can use these goals to get to the end of difficulties faster, and with less risk of death. For example, this red themed goal here would let me skip 2 stages, but I could take the easier green themed goal to skip only 1 stage. Or, even safer would be the blue goal, which would skip 0 stages and offer no score multipliers. You'll also find that goals come in many different shapes and sizes, usually themed to the world they come from. This one's shaped like a lollipop. Goals can also be varying levels of difficult to enter, so be careful and look ahead before you try to enter one. Bumpers. Bumpers are a threatening object that will hit you outwards from the moment you make contact with them. The faster you hit them, the more they'll multiply your speed. These are mostly a dangerous object that will send you off the edge, but as long as you don't come into them too quickly, you can often recover by compensating for the direction they send you outwards. If you're somehow able to land directly on top of them, in fact, you can get sent straight up, but this usually does not end well. Let's give it a shot, for fun. Hey, nice. This won't come up too often, but it's a fun little stunt to show your friends. Seesaws. When you stand on a seesaw, it starts to tilt. When this happens, make sure you switch sides before you lose control. Seesaws can also be vertical, where they can be pushed around like revolving doors. Try pushing on walls you see that have suspicious axles sticking out of them. These seesaws usually don't reset back into place and are made to be pushed around permanently. Jump pads, orange flavored platforms that spring outwards when you stand on them. These give you a bunch of height and can even let you build speed. If you happen to land on one while still airborne, you'll go even further, which will let you cross large gaps. Sticky floors. When you stand on these pink, extremely high in friction sticky surfaces, your force of gravity will align with wherever the platform takes you. Walls, ceilings, anywhere is accessible with sticky floors. But remember, after you leave the sticky floor, your gravity will reset back to normal, so try to remember whatever that normal is. Gravity floors. Like sticky floors, but less sticky. When you stand on these surfaces, your gravity will permanently be altered to point towards the surface. Unlike sticky floors, this does not reset when you fall off the platform. Also, unlike sticky floors, there's no extra friction on these surfaces, so you can go as fast as you want. Go fast enough and you might even start orbiting the surface. Like a plumber in space. Sand. It's coarse, it's rough. It'll drop both your speed and bounce to extremely low values. As you can see, I can't really move around much at all in the sand. If I drop down, I don't bounce at all. It's a great surface for regaining control after you're going too fast or bouncing too high. But otherwise, it's very slow, and you want to avoid it if you can. Most stages will be designed around the sand though, and it'll be useful for completing the stage, so use at your own leisure. Touchpads. These special surfaces don't have a particular look to them and can be found everywhere. They'll usually be marked in a way that will encourage you to touch them, and when you do, the object will become animated. The animation can also vary, so you never know what you'll get with touchpads. Since they can also look like any other surface, these touchpads can hide secrets as well, so keep an eye open. Wind. Windy. As you'd expect, wind will apply a force in a given direction. If you don't accommodate for that force, it will push you around. Wind can slow you down, and wind can even speed you up. There are even special winds that will carry you through the air. Wind will always be signified with these white particles, so make sure to keep them in mind so you don't get pushed off the edge. Ice. Usually found in the icy worlds, ice breaks one of our major movement rules, ground friction. When you're on ice, friction is negligible. You will accelerate as fast as you would as if you were airborne. Depending on how you use it, this can cause you to go very fast, or fly right off the edge. My advice when on icy platforms is to slow down earlier than you would expect, as the friction will no longer carry the process of braking. Holes. These are holes. They're special. When you travel through one, you will pop out of another hole in space. Even your velocity will be maintained when you travel through these holes, so you can use said velocity to travel across large gaps.
Finish.
You can also look through these holes before going inside to see where you'll end up before making the decision. Stay informed. And that's all the info that you can expect to see and do in the current early access build of Rolled Out. As this game grows, so will its competition, so make sure to keep up with its updates to ensure you know what's going on at all times. I, of course, will be making more videos in the future to highlight these updates, so stay tuned. Thanks for watching, and I hope this video will help you get better at Rolled Out.
Start.